How's it going? Welcome to my review of the Civivi Keen Nadder. So, when you buy this knife, it comes with this fine little zip-up pouch. So, also comes with a couple stickers, which, on a Civivi, more of a budget knife, not nearly as exciting as on some of the higher-end knives, but it also comes with this cleaning cloth. But for the price of this knife, it's nice that they send a pouch and throw that in there. So this is one of the newer offerings from Civivi, which is the budget line of WE knives out of China. And we introduced Civivi in 2018 as their budget line to, distinguish them from as even more affordable knives out of China. But WE is generally seen as one of the better knife companies out of China, and a lot of other, manufacturers, custom makers and stuff use them as their mid-tech line or their more affordable line. They outsource to WE to build them. Throw in a couple examples here. Ferrum Forge is one of those. Let's see here. Like in this Crux here. This is made by WE Knives. For Ferrum Forge and drop, and also in this Exec, this is like Ferrum Forge's Pro line, same thing, made by WE Knives. So let's do some size comparisons, and then I will just run the specs in on the side to save a little bit of time. All right, let's get some size comparisons, starting with the budget knives. First up, we have a Rat Model 2. So fair amount bigger than the Model 2, and then the Rat Model 1 is a little bit bigger, so somewhere in between the two. And handle thickness, though, is pretty close. So about the same handle thickness. So if you have a Rat Model 1, you'll know roughly about how thick it is. Okay, let's compare it to a Spyderco Delica. This is the DLT exclusive version of the 20 CV blade, but everyone should have a Delica in their lineup. There you go. And the godfather of the modern folding knife. This one is the small Sebenza 21, so significantly bigger than the small Sebenza, but very similar size to the large Sebenza. And personally, I think this is about the perfect size, at least for me, for EDC folding knife. All right, let's dig a little deeper into this guy. So, blade steel and grind. This is Böhler N690 out of Austria. So I'll try to put the chemical makeup and some of the details on the side, but this is it's not a budget steel, it's more of a mid-tier steel. It's still kind of, it'd be at the top of the budget line. It's similar to VG10. I would place it a little higher than VG10. It's not quite same level as 154 cm, but it is a very stainless steel, so very corrosion resistant. Holds an edge pretty well, takes a fine edge, relatively easy to sharpen though still. And it's a good steel. It would be kind of towards the bottom of the steels that I generally consider acceptable and buy knives in. But at this price point, it's a pretty good choice. So this is a Tanto blade shape with a recurve and compound grind, so hollow grind here and then flat grind on the Tanto on the tip. Handle material is micarta, and they've done a very good job with the micarta. I believe it's canvas micarta. Feels very nice, and I especially like the, there we go. So when they were machining this, they kept the tool paths in here. So on this one, the tool is going this way, and they left them in there, so it adds a little bit of texture. This one, the tool was going this way. The reamer was going this way, and they left those in, adds a little bit of texture, and I just think it looks cool. So I do actually really like the design of this one, and I think that the overall aesthetics turned out very nice. So The main draw to this, though, is the action, especially in a budget knife. So there's 3 ways to deploy it. We have a thumb stud, jimping on the thumb stud. Thumb stud is almost the perfect size. Doesn't tear into your finger, but it's easy to grip. Deploys very well. So you can push button it. You can light switch it, which is how I generally deploy it. So also thumb stud deployment works very well. And then since it has a fuller here, we can dig our fingernail in, spidey flick it, which is very fun and addicting. So multiple ways to deploy. The action's great, and you can see it's almost drop shut. And the more I've been messing with it, the smoother it is getting. So it does drop shut with just a little bit of help. So it's just a blast to play with, especially because you can mix it up and do multiple deployment methods. So handle fills my hand well. It is a little bit shorter than a lot of handles. So thickness is, I think, 1/2 inch, but decent thickness. A little short, but feels good in my hand. So definitely easy to get all 4 fingers on there. You can choke up. This finger choil is perfect. So it puts the edge close to your finger, but no, I've had no issues cutting myself or had any fear of it. And holding it in a normal grip like you would open your Amazon packages or whatnot, just these 2 fingers just lock in here very well, very comfortable. Jimping up here is functional, not sharp enough to cut you, but your thumb does fit in there very well. So overall, very comfortable handle. And the balance point, if I can do this on the camera, is right there where you want it to be, right where you want your finger to line up. So if anything, the balance point is a little bit to the forward edge of this finger choil, which is ideal. So just about right. Also note just some of the lines on this. The line at this front of the handle lines up perfectly with the line on the flipper. So they just did a good job. This fuller here is about the same length as this I don't know, angle cut out there. So it's just a aesthetically pleasing knife. So pocket clip is a deep carry clip. So you can see it there, and the screws are recessed. So it's actually a deep carry clip. I hate it when the screws are not recessed, and then when you put it in your pants, it ends up going here and catching on the screws. So these ones are recessed. Unfortunately, the actual clip is not countersunk, so wish they would have taken the time to do that. But again, on a budget knife, it's acceptable. So it is tip up, right or left-handed carry. You can switch these screws across and switch the clip across. Lanyard hole for those 2 or 3 people that still like lanyards. Right here, very nice. A lot of the more recent knives have been doing this where they allow for a lanyard, but then they don't have that doofy looking hole just drilled through the side of the knife. So very well done. This is how I like to see if they're going to have a lanyard hole or a place to put a lanyard. I'd much rather have it on a standoff at the end instead of having just a random hole drilled through the knife and destroying the aesthetics of it. So let's get it apart, see how it works, what makes it tick. All right, we got it all apart. Everything, came apart really tight, or is fitted very tightly. So we have cage ceramic bearings. If I can get the focus, maybe. There we go. So you see the dark black color for the ceramic bearings. Also, ceramic ball detent. Maybe. There we go. Bam. Also, milled liners. Helps this thing come in pretty lightweight. Came in, I think, 3.7-ish, so under that 4-ounce mark. Non-spinning pivot. So it has a little tab on the back. I can show it there, maybe you can see it. But little tab on the back that locks into this scale. Oh, this scale. So see that little tab right there. So locks in the pivot. Very nice. I hate free spinning pivots. Loctite them and might never get them off if used too much. The screws, one screw on the pocket clip is to hold the pocket clip. The other one, well, they're both to hold the pocket clip, but one just holds the pocket clip. The other one goes all the way through and locks into this barrel between the standoff and between the back spacer. So when you switch it across, same thing, you have to switch. There's a T8 screws throughout except for the pocket clip. These are T6s, sadly. I don't know if they just didn't have the T8s that they have will not fit through there, or this is just their standard pocket clip, so they put T6s on it. But everything else is T8s, which you love to see. So, but everything came off nicely, so blue Loctite, but no issues coming apart. Super easy, and we'll see how it goes back together. But overall, very nice design, especially at this price point. So everything's tight. Build quality seems very nice. All right, went back together smoothly. Lockup is very early, but still good. So no blade play. Still basically drops shut. Centering is perfect, or at least it's close, close enough that I can't really tell. So, but yeah. Feel like I should show the centering and the lockup after I've taken it apart and put it together. Back together, as that demonstrates, high level of fit and finish. When you take a knife apart, put it back together, and it goes back together, exactly the same way that it was when you got it. So, but basically, so let's get into final conclusions on this one. Cost and availability. So this knife is usually $72, or at least everywhere I looked, it was $72. But I actually noticed some YouTubers have codes for White Mountain knives, and for 10% off. So I reached out to them, and they were willing to give me a 10% off code, so I get no kickbacks or benefits from it other than me being able to buy knives for a little bit cheaper, and you guys also, if you use my code, being able to get 10% off. So this is $72 on White Mountain knives. If you use my code, which is EDCKA, so Echo, Delta, Charlie, Kilo, Alpha, you'll get 10% off, and it ends up being $65, which is really a great price for this knife. So I think overall the price on it is very good, and for what you end up paying for it, that's just a great deal. It also, they do free shipping, that includes shipping. It came in 3 days, pretty quickly. And depending on what state you're in, you might not even, the state I'm in didn't even have to pay taxes, so it ended up being exactly right at $65, $65.20 or something like that. But for $65, I think you're definitely doing well. So let's get into my likes, dislikes, and then finalize it. So things I like. I really like the design. I think just looking at it, this is just a gorgeous knife. I think that they did the design cues well. I like these tool paths here and here. Overall, the handle height is thin, but in hand it feels great to me. And I have large hands. I wear usually an extra large glove or double extra large glove. So it feels great in hand to me. I think that the overall size, being just about basically an 8-inch knife with 3.5-inch blade, 4.5-inch handle, I think that's roughly, for me at least, that's the perfect size for a knife. Forward finger choil is very nice. It's just the right size, fits well. So, and I just think overall it's just a great looking knife. The action is awesome. Having 3 methods of deployment is great. And then being on ceramic bearing, especially at this price point, being able to fall shut pretty well. Deployment's great. Say they've just done a lot of things really well with this knife. Spidey flick is a kick. And I think price, puts it right in line. Dislikes, N690, like I said, it's kind of at the bottom of the range. I don't really care a whole lot for VG10. I put this a little higher than VG10. I think it takes a little bit of an edge better, holds an edge longer than VG10, and it's also more stain resistant or more corrosion resistant, I think, than VG10. Well above a lot of the budget steels, though. I mean, this destroys AUS 8 and the alphabet soup Chinese steels like the 8CR 13 MLVs and the 14 in 28s or whatever. So overall, this is a good steel. I put it more in the mid-range of steels than necessarily a budget steel, but it's it's still a more affordable steel. It's not going to compete anywhere close with any of the S30, S35s are obviously not the super steels like M390 or 20 CV. So, but in normal use, it's perfectly functional. For me personally, I sharpen my knives way more than I should anyways. So if I get a tiny little nick or a roll in an edge, I can't handle it. I have to go sharpen it pretty much immediately. So for me, I'm sharpening my knives a lot. So having something that holds an edge a whole lot longer doesn't have a whole lot of benefit to me, other than just, you know, being able to say it's a super steel. What else? The blade shape. So I like compound grinds. I like Tontos. I like the looks of this blade shape, but for practical purposes, I would rather see it be a Tonto where it actually ran the bottom edge to here, so it had a steeper Tonto and a more refined, you know, secondary point here on the Tonto. I would rather see it be a real Tonto more than this kind of hybrid, or just a drop point. And they could have done a compound grind with the drop point, like Hinder or Spanto. Bam. So basic drop point, but with kind of Tanto grinds. So I would rather see that or a Tonto than this. This effectively ends up being the same in use as this knife, because this point is not defined enough to be all that useful. I mean, I used it a little bit, but it's not like as useful as a traditional Tonto, but it makes it harder to sharpen. So I would rather see it one or the other. So this is actually harder to sharpen than a normal Tonto because you have a recurve, which sucks to sharpen. And then on top of that, you have this point right here. And the difference between these two edges is not great enough to be able to easily hold, you know, sharpen this edge and then sharpen this edge. Since they're closer to the same plane, it makes it difficult to retain this point without destroying the point. Now, I was able to do it, but, you know, the average person, if you just have stones or something like that, this point's going to be more difficult to maintain than if it was a normal Tonto or if it just wasn't there. But on the flip side, if you sharpen it enough and the point goes away, it just becomes a compound grind, you know, drop point, which would also be fine. What else? The pocket clip attachment, not that big a deal. So these screws are recessed, which I like, but the pocket clip is just kind of sitting up there. They didn't actually mill the handle scale to fit the pocket clip at all. So I'd rather see that. This going in and out of the pocket, this didn't catch or anything. It just looks, you know, this is what I would consider maybe not a budget knife. Let's say under $50 would be a budget knife. At $65, this is an affordable knife. So, you know, that might have upped the price a little bit, which I might not have wanted to pay, but this is my likes and dislikes. If I'm making a wish list, I wish that this was just countersunk. That's about it. I mean, overall, I think this is a great knife, especially for the price. I am going to keep it. This isn't one that I'm going to sell or give away. A lot of my budget knives I give away to buddies. But I think I'm going to hang on to this one. This is going to be kind of one of my beater knives. And this is it's just a blast to mess with. So I was sitting at work. Everyone's working from home right now. I've been working from home with the coronavirus and just sitting in front of my computer, flicking this. I have to have opened this a couple thousand times over the course of this last week or so. But just, you know, doing the Spidey flick. Well, that was a bad one, but Spidey flick and, you know, normal openings. It's just fun to flick, fun to mess with. Good fidget toy. Oh, I wish that if I had a choice, I would like a ramped detent. So this price point, tough to get, but you can see right here is where the detent ball hits. I don't know if you will see it, but the detent ball hits the blade right there. So normally when you're closing it, it drops a little bit farther and it's over it because the detent ball is pretty close to the edge there, so it's not that big a deal. But given the choice, you know, like I said, this is my wish list. I'd rather have a ramp detent so that that's never an issue, so you don't ever drop it and catch it there and then can't get it to fall over it. So, yeah. And then finally, who's this knife for? I think this knife is kind of for knife addicts like me. This is an affordable fidget knife for people that are into knives. Most people are going to have a hard time sharpening a recurved Tonto, especially one that's not as pronounced. This one's harder to sharpen than your standard Tonto, I think. This is definitely not a knife that you'd buy for your father-in-law who's carried a buck 110 for his whole life. This would just scare him, and just, definitely not that kind of knife. But if you're a knife addict, you have tons of knives, and you can afford 65 bucks as basically an impulse buy, this is an awesome knife. It's a lot of fun to mess with. It's fun to spidey flick. This is just a great knife overall. So I don't think you'll go wrong getting it, especially at this price point. So thanks. If you enjoyed this, give me a like, let me know. And I'm going to try to do some budget knives and bounce back and forth between budget and high end, and maybe try and get some in between. So I'll try and do one of the more higher end ones next. But if there's any knives you'd like to see reviewed, let me know in the comments. If I have it, I will do it. If it's an affordable budget knife, I will try to pick one up and do it. So let me know. Thanks for your time.